Hello, everyone. This is a review video for the week 2 study questions on the ethics of autopilot. Most of these questions are quite open-ended. I don't think there are any essentially correct answers, but I wanted to give you a sense, for the future, for exams and things like that, of what I was getting at, what I was thinking of, the kind of themes that I think are important, because that is important for, preparing for exams and such, and just clarifying what the class is about. So thought I would do these review videos for the weekly assignment, whatever it is. Okay, so number one, let's suppose that autonomous vehicles are safer than human-driven ones. Now, that's a supposition. I think that when I first put this several years ago, and I put this collection of things together on the subject, things were much more sanguine, let's say, more optimistic in terms of the future of autopilot, of self-driving vehicles. I think there have been some things that have happened in the last couple of years, especially, to really dim the prospects of the effectiveness, safety, efficiency, practicability of autopilot. However, I think that long term, it's still a sound assumption or supposition or guess that eventually, maybe not within a few years, as it seemed perhaps a few years ago, perhaps because it was being so oversold by Tesla and other interests. But I think it's a fairly sound guess that eventually autonomous vehicles will be safer than ones driven by human beings. But it's just a supposition anyway. Let's suppose that autonomous vehicles are safer than human-driven ones. Does that mean we should welcome self-driving cars? Why or why not? Of course, that's up to you. But the question there is whether really, the intent behind it is whether really utilitarian considerations are the only ones that matter. If they are, then we must, I think, accept that we should. Because if self-driving cars are safer, if they cause fewer accidents, deaths, then it's a no-brainer, I think. We should welcome self-driving cars. But of course, utilitarian considerations are not the only ones that are relevant. What about Kant? That is, and this goes to the moral machine problem. That is, how do we program a car to behave in situations where there will inevitably be loss of life or injury to human beings? And there we run into all sorts of moral difficulties, which are not of a utilitarian nature. They are deal with questions like, the second categorical imperative. Would we be employing a person as a means to an end if we decided to run them down in favor of, or to avoid running down someone else? It also just brings up a whole, perhaps something that transcends Kantianism or utilitarianism, is that it is quite a step to put into the hands of an algorithm this. Well, wouldn't be a decision, would it? I mean, it opens up all sorts of problems that are really beyond utilitarianism in a sense, or seem to be beyond utilitarianism. So it's a matter of your opinion, of course, but I think it's important to see what sort of step it would be to leave it up to a program to determine who lives and who dies. That's just such a fateful step. So it's not clear, unless we confine ourselves to a kind of a strict utilitarianism, that it would be the right thing to do. Number two, do you agree with the democratic approach that the moral machine experiment takes to the question of programming autonomous vehicles? Why and why not? I just want to explain what I meant by democratic, if it wasn't clear from the videos. The idea that moral values should be determined by survey is, I think, not so clearly correct. That is, the moral machine experiment basically says that if we are going to make these sort of determinations to build into a computer program kind of a calculus about who should be saved and who should be sacrificed, then it should have public support. And I agree with that absolutely, it should be something that's done from a consensus. However, that might suggest that moral values should be determined by what's most popular, and that is not clear to me at all, right? And I think for obvious reasons. That is, it's a non sequitur. First of all, what is morally right is not clearly a matter of what is most agreed upon, because people can be wrong about what's morally right. And so it could very well be that as a result of a democratic approach, like let's see what people want, we may program values that are just unsound. Let's just say that a stupid thing, but let's just say that there is a irrational disgust for people who, I don't know, have gray hair. Okay. And that just is something that is prevalent throughout the population. If we were to say that, well, of course, if it's between a gray-haired person and a non-gray-haired person, then you should choose the non-gray-haired person. That would be an example, a silly example, but an example of, well, it's just wrong, right? So I think that the democratic approach is problematic. It's not clearly wrong, but it does raise some problems. Finally, when you took the moral machine survey, were you surprised by any of the results? That's just what me wanting to know, because I was somewhat surprised, not terribly surprised, but I think that I was surprised at some of the results. That is, it is a process of discovery of one's preferences at the very least, and perhaps of one's values. And sometimes the values that emerge in a thing like that are not the ones that we're aware of. So I wanted to know, because I can't remember exactly what it was. It's been several years since I took the survey. I hope it's still up. I haven't checked lately. But some of these results can be surprising.